Hello everyone, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you for joining us for this World Tai Chi and Qigong Day. We, of course, are here in Longmont, Colorado, in the U.S., and we extend a very special welcome to, of course, the participants who are here in the room, especially any visitors who are joining us today, also to our usual Dao Space Live members, and a special welcome to anybody who is viewing us live on YouTube. If you are in our chat, feel free to drop a line in and let us know where you're tuning in from. We hope you enjoy it today. We have a special program that will cover a variety of subjects and things to both participate in and to watch. We'll have some demonstrations of the things we teach here. We will have a teaching from Bruce, and we will start out with a lesson and a practice-along session led by senior instructor Craig Barnes, and we hope you will stick around with us as long as you can. If you are here live in the room in Longmont, after we wrap this up, we are going to transition out to the lobby and have a reception with some tea and refreshment, so please join us for that as well. So now we will go ahead and get started. So I welcome you one more time, and I will go ahead now and turn it over to Senior Instructor Craig Barnes.
Hi, thank you, Bill. Welcome, everybody. We're going to have, as Bill mentioned, we're going to have a little bit of a different class. And this class normally this time is Bruce is teaching the Wu-style long-form Tai Chi. And we're going to, in this session, focus on one move from Tai Chi and from particularly the way it's done in Wu-style Tai Chi, cloud hands. And cloud hands is a good move to work on for anybody who's just coming in, even if you've never done Tai Chi, because it's pretty representative of all of the moves in Tai Chi. And it's a very balanced move, going both to the left side and the right side, up and down, forward and back, moving in all of the directions. So it's a good move to sort of get a taste of what Tai Chi is. And also for the long-form class, we're almost at this move in our progression through the form, so it'll be good for people who are taking the normal class with Bruce too. But we're going to start with one very simple thing, which is up, as I said, there's movements and you can go in all directions, and we're going to start with one piece of cloud hands, which is this up and down movement. And you want to have this idea, right, that one hand's going to go down. And now instead of just the hand just falling down, you're going to want to have a sense of your palm, the forearm, everything in your arm pressing towards the floor. You want to keep your arm, as in all Tai Chi movements, soft and relaxed. So it's a gentle movement. There's no stiffness. There's no muscular force pushing down. But at the same time, the hand isn't just totally loose. You want to have a sense of the hand and the arm feeling the air and pressing towards the floor. So let's just try that for a minute with the hand. And notice the difference, right? The hand can just fall, right? You can hold the hand very stiff and push it down, but then having a sense of letting the hand drop, feeling the area around it, and that you're pressing downwards. Now, one thing to think about is that Tai Chi is a martial art, right? Even if most people in the world, I think, by far practice it as a health exercise, but it can also be used for martial arts, and also it can be used as an introduction, as moving in towards stilling the mind and moving into meditation. But no matter what you're using it for, you still have this sense of pressing down. But in terms of martial arts, could I have someone up on stage? It doesn't matter who. Katie's fine, right? Just very simply, you can think of, instead of just moving the hand in space, the down movement is someone's punching you, right? Punching coming at you. Your hand is going to push them out of the way. Press them down towards the floor. So, right, and that wouldn't happen if I just let my hand just touch her. You have to have some weight and pressure. In addition to your hand, thank you, Katie, your hand going down, You can also think now you're starting to go down, pushing something down outside of the body, but also you want to start to have a sense of moving something through the inside. So you don't have to have a big squat down or anything like that, but you want to have a sense now that your hand and arm, as they're pushing down, are going to have a sense of causing something to move through the body down towards your foot. So you're pressing down. Try one side and then the other. Right? So if you're just starting Tai Chi, you start to get this sense of how you're moving in Tai Chi. It's not just waving the hands around, but you're actually doing something, right? If you're doing it as a martial art, but even if you're doing it for health, now you have this idea of pushing something down through the body, down to the feet, right? And then, of course, you can come up. Instead of just the hand moving upward now, we're going to try to get this sense of one hand's moving down, pressing something towards the floor, and you're going to try to have the sense that the hand that's pressing down is causing something to rise up the other side of the body, and the hand on the other side is rising. And then switch. So you have now a down and an up. One down and one up. And again, just the hands moving outside is different than feeling something pushing down towards the floor, feeling something inside the body, right? You can have the armpits. The armpit wants to stay open, but the sense of as the arm goes down, the whole arm, the armpit, that causes a kind of pressure that moves through the torso down towards the foot, and that pressure going down somehow translates into pressure coming up the other side of the body. So you have down and up. Right? And in addition to just that movement in the arms, you can also have a sense, right, down the body of your weight falling into one side. That can help that downward feeling. Your weight falling into the other side. Down and up. So, one other thing that we can add to this, which is something that happens again in all Tai Chi moves, right? So, is that the hands, in addition to moving up and down, left and right, they also can turn, right? Your hand can turn over. Right? Palm up and palm down. And this turning becomes a constant thing inside of Tai Chi. And in this move, instead of just the hand going down, you want to take the hand and turn it towards the floor so that the palm, again, is pressing down towards the floor. And the hand that's coming up, it's turning palm up. And then you switch down the other side. And up. Now there's talk about 4 basic energies in Tai Chi, right? And you can think of them as directions that energy is moving. And they're called Chinese names Peng, Lu, Ji, and An, right? But basically here we have the downward motion, which is An, and the upward motion, which is Peng. So you have one side pushing down and the other side filling up, expanding and rising. And then one side pressing towards the floor and the other side turning up and rising. And again, if I have Katie up for a second, again. If you're doing martial arts, someone's punching you, you can do on to press them towards the floor, right? You can also, one side going down, Peng. So you want to have a little sense of power in the arm as the arm's turning up, that something is rising up and that you're able to push something out of the way. But you're going to try to do it Again, without engaging in muscular strength, without engaging any sort of tension in the body. But still there's a fullness, that the down pressure creates a fullness and a rising in the body, and the hands turning over. All right. Now we have a very short time to teach this move. I don't think I've ever taught cloud hands in just 20 minutes, which is basically the time that I have. But we have this up and down, and we want to move to the other directions in Tai Chi. Right? So in addition to up and down, you can have sideward motion. You can think, oh, if you want to block someone off to the side. But one of the principles we want to start to talk about now, instead of just the hand moving to the side, you're going to try to get the whole body to turn. Right? And if you think about, if you sit down a little bit and you get this turning in the body, trying to keep the whole body straight, and now instead of just the hand moving, you have the hand and the body moving. The hand, the arm, and the body. And again, you can think of, Katie, don't go too far, right? But again, if you can think of the arm moving, right? Someone's punching you, this punch is coming towards me, you can move it to the side, turn, right? And the arm touches their body, I can just move my hand, but I'll get more strength if I turn my body. So now we have, right, one arm turning and pushing something one direction, and then turning back the other direction. Left and right. If you hold both your arms out in front of the body a little bit, right, turning, you can think of this whole side of the arm is going to block someone, but then as it blocks, the hand turns over. Right? And come back. The hands turns over. Now let's try the other side. If my left arm is up, just have both hands in front of the body now. Now the hand's not moving so much, but the body is turning, and as the body turns, the hand turns over and pushes something to the side. Back. Pushes something to the side. Right? And if you think also about this pushing to the side, the body turning and pushing to the side, right? You want to have an evenness. Right? I remember I mentioned in the beginning that cloud hands is a good movement because it's balanced. Right? That you're going both right and both left, both up and both down. When you're going to the side, you turn one direction. When you're going to the other side, you turn an equal amount to the other side and let the hands turn over as they're going to the other side. Right? So now let's put both of these things together. We have side, we have up and down. Right? From the center, if you take your arms, move them out in front of your body like you have a big ball. Right? You're holding something inside the arms. And then turn. As you turn, you're pushing something to the side and turning the palms over. And now, down and up. And then come back to the middle, pushing to the other side. And then down and up. Back to the middle. Right? Not the arms moving, but the whole body turning, the hands turning over. And then the hands continue to turn as one hand presses towards the floor and the other hand rises. And then back to the middle. The other side. Down and up. Let the weight shift. Where? If I'm turning to the right, let the weight shift towards the right. Then down and up. Come back to the middle, and as I turn towards the left, let the weight shift towards the left foot. And then down and up. Just try this on your own for a second. Maybe it helps, I'll face the other direction for a minute. Sometimes it's easier to follow that way. Turn towards the right, the hands turn over. Down, that sinking through the body causes the rising on the other side. Then come back to the middle. Turn to the other side. Then down causes an up. Now this takes some practice. Take a rest for a second. We'll get back to this. This takes some practice to get, but in addition to now, right, we have a down and up. We have turning to the side. Then we have a down and up. In addition to that, those different movements, you have the transition from one movement to the other. So you start to have this idea of, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, right, that one movement's turning into the other. So you have, in this case, a down and the up, one hand going down and one hand coming up, but that's going to turn in to the side motion. And this side motion is going to turn in to the down movement. So instead of a square shape, which that is, you end up with a circular shape. And this is, again, a big principle to how movement works in Tai Chi. That you have a continuity, something that never stops, something with no corners. Right? A circle has no corners, it just keeps going around, rather than a square, which has corners. So you have this idea of motion, and in terms of cloud hands then, now we start getting to a down and up. Before you quite finish the down, you're moving into the side-to-side motion, and then continue. All right, so get up now and try this again. Basically, we're doing the same thing. We have side-to-side motion, we have up and down movement, but we're going to try to make it circular. Right. So both hands are in front. Something's there, you're pushing it to the side, and now you're pressing it down towards the floor, and then coming back to the middle. And start to have this idea now of continuous circular motion, where you're continuously turning either from the right to the left, and you're continuously moving the arms. Now each time you get to the side, when the hand's going to come down, you're having that sense of sinking through the body, pushing down through the body into the floor. And then on the other side, and that sinking, or that on movement, is causing pung, or rising in the other arm. And back to the middle. Down and up. So you have continuity, and once you get this, even though you're causing moving something out of the way, again, no muscular tension. So as we're doing this, you're making a circle now, soften everything in the body. Relax the arms. Keep them out in front of you. Try to have this continuous motion. And the last thing, aside from the physical body relaxing, just let the mind go easy, right? Not too much, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Just let the movements go smooth. Start to have that smooth, fluid motion. Of the body. Create a relaxed mind. Turn. And if you can now, You're making the circles. You're going back and forth. As you go from the middle to the right, turn the palms over. One turning up, the other turning out. Continue to turn the arms. So you have the circular shape that's continuous, and you have a continuous, look at the hands, turning of the hands. And back to the middle. Okay. Now, normally it would take a couple hours to teach this movement, so we've just done a little brief introduction. I hope that gives you some idea of movement in Tai Chi. But because we have a bunch of other stuff scheduled, we're going to move forward. And the next thing I want to do is introduce Bruce Frantzis, who is the founder of the school and the main teacher here. All of the stuff that we've been learning here comes from him and his studies in China. So anyway, let's have a welcome to Bruce, and if he's ready. And so take a break. Bruce will be up here in a minute. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, everybody, stay with us for just a moment here. It's only going to be a few seconds, so if you're watching at home or any other location on screen via YouTube, again, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Bruce is going to move into a teaching here, and then we'll follow that up with some demonstrations afterwards, as I mentioned before. So we will keep this moving along. So without further delay, I will go ahead now and turn it over to Master Bruce Frantzis.
I began Tai Chi in 1965 with a man called Zheng Manqing, who was rather well known in New York. But I really seriously got into it in 1968 in Taiwan and Tokyo, Japan. At that time, in the world of Tai Chi, there are four major, what you could say, styles. That means the movements look different, but if you know what's inside of them, they're all working from the same principles. The first one I did was the Chen Pan Ling style, which is a combination style. That style was created in the 1930s when the Japanese were invading China. And China wanted to have something that could be a record of the Tai Chi that was in that country, because they didn't know exactly what the Japanese were going to do. Okay, that's a simple way of putting it. And the person who designed it was a man called Chen Pan Ling, who was an engineer by profession, but whose family had been rather well off, and who had people come to his home from the time he was a child to teach him martial arts. And that style is composed of all the other major styles of Tai Chi, which are the Yang, the Wu, and the Chen. Now, he lived near the Chen village, so that was the biggest exposure he had as a child. So the original Chen Tai Chi, he had that. But then this whole thing came together. And anyway, I learned that in Taiwan and in Tokyo from a student of somebody in Taiwan. Now, during the 1970s and late 60s, that was the style of Tai Chi I taught. As a matter of fact, I taught that up until the early 1980s. And I taught that in Colorado, and I taught that in New York, and various other places. It is a rare style of Tai Chi which doesn't appear all that often. I thought it was quite exceptional. But I came to a conclusion that in order for me to really understand it, I needed to know what the original styles were that all the component parts of that form were made up of. So I did it. In that period of time, I studied the Yang style with Yang Cheng Fu's oldest son, who is the fellow who's brought down the modern Yang style. So we're going right back to what it actually is. I'm saying right back to what it actually is for a reason. What has occurred in Tai Chi, what made it famous in China, what made it historically well known, has been degenerating generation by generation. It's been disappearing. It hasn't been passed down to the next folks. It would be as though you had a whole load of books of physics and every generation, all of a sudden, they just took 20% or 30% of what was in those books and threw them in the garbage. So what made Tai Chi a big deal previously is not what it is now. So a lot of the Tai Chi that you see now is just people moving, and they actually have no idea what's inside of it. Like a car has an engine. You wouldn't buy a car just for the body of the car, although you might, I guess, if you were an art collector. Or you wouldn't buy a computer just for a box. You'd buy it for what the box can do. Well, that's been going down by generations, but in what they call the original lineages, where the original people who did it passed it on to students, that is how the essence of Tai Chi was created. That is not what you will see in the vast, overwhelming majority of the Tai Chi in the United States or Europe, where there have been new variations, up into the government creating a form of Tai Chi, where I was the first person certified to teach that in China, in mainland China, the first American, I should say, that those things were done, and they were done simply so that, okay, we now have people who are over the age of 60, and we want to give them something to do to improve their balance and help their general health. Whereas, there was also Tai Chi that was in China that was where it came closer to the original lineages, where it melded with Chinese medicine, where it was used specifically to cure disease, where it forms the rubric of, in the 8 branches of Chinese medicine, where Qigong is one method of Chinese medicine. Well, so was Tai Chi, and I learned that too, because I was a Chinese doctor in China, and so I learned that stuff. Now, as this moved forward in time, Tai Chi started in a place called the Chen Village. And then there was a man, and they kept it secret. They wouldn't teach it to anybody. It was like having Coca-Cola not giving over its formula. They wanted to keep it proprietary. Or a weapon system not being given away because they wanted to keep the information proprietary. So that then got broken when this fellow named Yang came and studied in the Chen Village. And he so impressed the head teacher that the head teacher, after putting him through an incredible hazing process, okay, he then learned it. Yang then went all over China, and that's when Tai Chi was known as a martial art. Now, in today's time, Tai Chi, by most people who do martial arts, is thought of as a joke. Okay, it was thought of as a joke, and but people who don't know anything about Tai Chi have some idea, oh, it's some kind of self-defense. They don't know what that means. Self-defense is a vague, generic term. But anyway, this Yang went all over China, and what he did is he took on challenges from almost every province in China. But he did something that Tai Chi was uniquely known for. Classic martial arts, if you did that in China, you would put the person in the hospital. Okay? It wasn't like MMA where you knock them out. You would have to definitively hurt them. What Yang did is that he beat everybody he challenged without hurting anybody. So he had there's a specific technique in Tai Chi, it's called Fai Jing, that he used. And that got him very, very well known. And then he came up to Beijing, and then he impressed the people who were in charge of who was going to train the emperor's guards. Remember, keeping the emperor alive was rather important, okay? That was a big deal. And everybody in Beijing who came, he effectively just beat them up. Okay? So he then had it, and so from there, the center of the style went to his 2 sons. And in those days, this is where martial art people get kind of screwed up. They think that most people who do Tai Chi don't know how to use it for martial arts. That's true, they've never learned it. It's like asking a person who has never gone to the 1st grade, well, could you show me all this stuff from Shakespeare? They can't do it because they never learned it to begin with. Anyway, his sons, he trained so hard that one of them tried to commit suicide, and one of them tried to go and join a monastery just not to have daddy put them through what was classical training. And if you're going to be very good in martial arts, you have to train a hell of a lot. Knowing the information is useless. You actually have to have it trained to where you can perform it at will. So anyway, he then passed it on to his sons, and his son passed it on to somebody. I've been fortunate enough to have learned one from, this was the original Yang, not his kids, but his kids taught 2 people in Shanghai. and I study with people who study from them. Okay? So that's also very direct line. It's called the old Yang style. Then Yang Chen Fu, I study with Yang Xiaozhong, who is Yang Chen Fu's oldest son, who had a pretty straight idea. And then, you know, I've done Yang style with various and sundry other people. Now, the Yang style is the most popular form of Tai Chi in the world today. I've been an international judge, and I can state this with, I'd bet my house on it, that the vast majority of the people who win all these competitions and have all these pretty uniforms, they could not fight their way out of a paper bag. And the reason is they never learned it. What they learned how to do was to make the movements of Tai Chi look very aesthetic and very beautiful. So that's just the straight story. I went to the place from where all this stuff originates in China, the College of Physical Education in Beijing. So this is but then there's a whole nother thing where people did martial arts, and there's a whole nother division of Tai Chi, which almost nobody has learned, which they did know 100 years ago, and it was the place where Tai Chi got its reputation as being an incredible healing art of serious diseases. And that medical part of it has not really been passed on that well, and if you want to get right down to it, what it is just using the external form of Tai Chi to embody the principles of healing Qigong in China, which is a branch of Chinese medicine. Then, after all this, there is another division of Tai Chi, which is not known very well at all, because it was kept secret inside of Taoism. Now, you've all seen the symbol, the yin-yang. Well, all the stuff that's inside of Tai Chi, all its internal energy work, originally came from Taoism. It did not come from Buddhism. It did not come from Confucianism. It came from Taoism. However, with that being said and done, the movements that were originally done in the Chen village were the movements that were part of the war manual of one of China's foremost generals. Okay, the one person who actually was able to chase the Khans away a while before they executed him, because the emperor got jealous. If he beat the Khans, then like what was going to happen to him? This was politics. But he did this, and he made the forms, but the actual meditation forms came out of several Taoist mountains, because there is a very distinct way that the Taoist meditation tradition, when I talk about the Taoist meditation tradition, I'm not talking about taking a little bit of stress off of you. Ordinary Tai Chi will do that. I'm talking about the subject that in the West is called enlightenment. And that came from the Taoist groups, and the Taoist groups passed some of it on to the general public, including the Yangs, including what was in the Chen village, but not very much. But my teacher spent 10 years in the mountains with the Taoists, and he was taught that stuff. So he taught to me. And he never would have even tried to teach it for me if I already did not have a 20-year serious background in Asian meditation. Okay, not a month, something. So you get this with many people who make all sorts of statements, and they go to China for 2 weeks, a month, and all of a sudden their resumes all say, learned in China. Horseshit. That would be the same exact statement if someone went to a 2-week seminar in Harvard and said, well, I'm a Harvard graduate. Nobody would take it seriously. Well, in the world of Tai Chi, nobody would take that seriously either. But nowadays, since nobody knows the difference, anybody can say anything they want. So that's leaving that. Now, the last thing I did is that when I was in Beijing, I studied with Liu Hongjie, and there are now, as I said, there are 4 major styles of Tai Chi. The first one is, there's a lot of combination styles. I learned the Chen Panling, which I thought was a particularly good one after all my experience afterwards. But not because I learned it, just because of what it is. I've learned the Yang. The Wu style is the Yang style. When the original Yang formed when he was teaching the emperor's guards, he had 3 main students. The one who learned, and Yang said, learned the highest level of his art, his name was Wu. It actually wasn't that. It was a Manchurian name, but you had to change because names changed. It would be like if you were in Hitler's Germany, you really didn't want to have the name Finkelstein. Okay? Bad idea. Well, bad idea to have the name of the people who had conquered the current government in China. He had to get rid of the name. So it was Wu. From Wu, he taught his son. But his son also learned from Yang Chengfu's two sons. So it is the Yang style. And he changed the movements a bit because if there's, the way these things work in China is that it's not called Wu Tai Chi or Yang Tai Chi or Chen Tai Chi. It's called Chen Family Tai Chi, Yang Family Tai Chi. And every generation or every time a family kind of adapts the form, they change some of the movements simply to fit in for whatever their ideas are. That's all it is. But what they're actually doing while they're doing it isn't all that different. So, then in Beijing, I studied with Liu Hongjie, who studied in the home of Wu Jianquan. We could call him the modern founder of the Wu style. When he was the head of the Henan Guoshuguan, Wu's two children were underneath him as junior instructors. He was the head of the whole training section. So that happened. Then the next thing that goes on is that after studying with Leo, and I lived and I stayed in his house for 3 to 6 hours learning every day for 3.5 years. So this is not a weekend. This is not a month. And that's after walking into the place with over 20 years experience. So this is something I dedicated my whole life to. It wasn't just something I picked up because I thought it was cool. Okay? Then I also studied with Feng Zhiqiang, who was considered to be the best Chen style person outside the Chen village, who studied with the person who was the last lineage descendant of the Chen style. I didn't teach his Tai Chi because I thought, and my experience of seeing people in the West, it damaged too many people's knees. A lot of the moves and the way that, if they're done properly, I mean, I've seen people doing the Chen style of Tai Chi, and it lacks almost 95% of what makes the style unique. But like this. So anyway, this is the history of Tai Chi. This is kind of what I do, and I'll have things going on. The only little word I would leave is this. The value of Tai Chi for people at this present time primarily lies in 3 areas. The first area is what I would call general fitness. And it will keep the body very healthy. There's no two ways about it. Whether or not it can make you strong, because that is what Tai Chi was known for historically. Martial arts only get known for being something when they can quote-unquote seriously kick ass. A weakling cannot kick ass, but the way in which they develop power is from Qi, is from the internal energy of the body, and not by lifting weights, which is, for example, most of what's done in MMA today. The second part of it is that if you're lucky enough to even meet a teacher who knows it, Tai Chi is really known for, if not out and out curing, seriously mitigating, lessening many heavy diseases. Okay? The kinds that in the hospital you're basically told, you know, I don't know, it's too bad, you know, really. We don't know what to do about this. And it works that way. And for the martial arts, you just have to find someone who actually knows it and can teach it. But I would say a couple of things. The classic joke that's made in the martial arts world is that, hey, Tai Chi, you can't fight in slow motion. And I would have to say that was probably the people who are saying that are people who have a 50 IQ. They're really stupid. Now, of course you can't fight in slow motion. Any idiot can figure that out. But then there's the idea that there's nobody ever said Tai Chi fights in slow motion. They confuse people doing a form with how they fight with it. Now, what Tai Chi enables a person to do is to get their mind inside their body and start controlling their central nervous system. And speed comes from your central nervous system. It doesn't come from the development of muscles or even reflex training. So Tai Chi goes for just, it can make the nerves move very, very quickly. But as a martial art, Tai Chi has something. It never seeks to use muscular strength. You never contract muscles in Tai Chi, which in this modern age of stress is very, very valuable, because people are constantly, involuntarily contracting their muscles, and that is how stress is wiping people out. And stress is considered by most medical associations to be the leading cause of chronic disease in the West. So, here we're just going to go on to this. So I've explained my background. I've been doing Tai Chi for over 50 years. You know, I didn't go to China for a couple of weeks a few years ago. I've been doing this my whole life. And so let's just start. So let's say we would start first with health. So Craig, can you just come up here? Or Paul, whichever one of you want to do it. I don't really care. Now, for example, and I don't think it's that, you have in Tai Chi two fundamentally different methods of movement. One is you have small movement. So watch me. This is small movement. Now these movements are fairly small. Now you start seeing how small they are. And then you have, that's the Wu. That's what I do. I do the Wu mostly because I was actually taught the meditation stuff that's in Wu style Tai Chi. And that's the only reason why I emphasize teaching that in the West, because as far as I'm concerned, for health or for fighting, I mean, you know, it really doesn't much matter. If you're good enough at it, you can pull any of them off. But this is, for example, the Yang style. The old Yang. You see the difference in just the size of the movements of what I'm doing right now? But I'm not done yet. Okay? See the size of that movement? This is much bigger. Much bigger. And that's a bit different from a small movement. Now, difference between big and small movement styles. Whatever you do is that if you learn it with anybody, a small movement style should be moving things inside your body. More. Screw the outside movements. That's dance. Tai Chi is about producing energy in your body and producing results, not looking nice or not nice. As a matter of fact, in China, when you say to somebody, oh, your Tai Chi is beautiful, it means it's being done very well. But when Westerners say, oh, it's beautiful, to a Tai Chi person, that's a big insult. That's like telling a mathematician, wow, your arithmetic's pretty good. That's the exact equivalent of it. Anyway, now we got to look at this. Well, first you can just have it. So if we're just talking about improving your balance, getting your body to turn, the biggest things you're looking for are that your waist has to move and your weight has to shift very clearly. This shifting of the weight will circulate the blood throughout your entire body. Especially if you put an emphasis on making sure you can feel it going down your leg and up and down the other leg. That's blood. Good thing to have moving well. Okay? But the next thing that occurs is that, okay, you're doing some movement. So here, I'll just take this one as an example. And then it starts having, well, your elbows drop. You sink down to your side because there are all sorts of small little things that determine whether you get your chi to flow, whether you get your energy to flow in your body. And then you have the fact that the way many movements are done, exactly how are these movements moving your internal organs? So for example, anybody could put their hand on any of my organs they want, and as they go through the Tai Chi move, you'll find that I am causing them, my organs are moving in exact coordination with my hands, which is not something that happens in normal exercise. So this is part of it. Now, when we talk about, and this is why most people are into it. Now, if you're approaching Tai Chi from that point of view, then you will get normal physical exercise, any way you're looking at it. But the next thing about exercise is this. How much strain can a person take? Everything in Tai Chi is done with the body being completely relaxed. Okay? There's no tensing of muscles anywhere. Now, what that means is that the body is learning how to go through normal activities without creating stress. And I'm not against the weightlifting or whatever. I was a gymnast when I was a kid for a while. So I've done things like that. But if you're looking at, as a person gets a bit older, the vast majority of people can only take so much pressure on their body after the age of 30 or 40. And Tai Chi is meant to be something a child can do up to a 90-year-old can do. So now we just talk about its healing and regenerative capacities. The slow motion movements of Tai Chi, they, in one sense, at the simplest level, you can just look at it. Beside how it's moving Qi in your meridian lines, it's getting blood to go through all the places it has a tendency not to flow evenly in the body. You can move your arm like this. You may not have that much blood moving through your arm. You have a lot in your wrist. But then how do you get it moving throughout your whole body? And the principles upon which a Tai Chi is based are the principles alone, if you do them even half correctly, are going to do these things. And then you can start looking at how it affects your brain. You know, there's the things in Tai Chi about how you do it, about how you actually circulate energy within the brain, which is not something that normal Western exercise really knows about. Doesn't do it, matter of fact, doesn't even think about it. So they have thought about it in China for a long, long time. And what we're getting now is what's handed down from the past. Now, I spent 11 years learning this jazz in China. If I could have learned it in a month, do you think I would have stayed there longer? Okay, I didn't stay in China for the women. I didn't stay in China even to make fortunes, which were available. Okay, if you had half a brain, you could speak Chinese, and I can't. No, I did it because I really wanted to understand what this is, because I think it's a world treasure that I think would be really nice if it comes to the West. Western technology has taken China from poverty to extreme wealth. Okay, well, I think it's also nice that some of what they have from their culture can take what is poverty in the West and bring it to extreme wealth. And in terms of health and mental equilibrium, that is something. But also, don't think of China for 80%, 75% of the world's history. The richest nation on earth was China. Okay, it wasn't Rome. It wasn't Greece. It wasn't even the colonial powers. It was China, and part of what did that is the Chinese are real work fanatics, and they really penetrate inside things until they arrive at what the core of it is. Only in the ancient days, it was types of things like how the inner energy of the body works was something they put their attention on. Just like today, I'm sure it's all being done with, you know, digital whatever and whatever. So now we look at something else. For example, can you come here, Craig? It's okay, I'm bigger than him, but I'm not going to do anything that matters. Now, if we then look at, if you had a heart problem, the way you would do Tai Chi, there are ways you sync your energy, but there's also the ways you connect it to your other internal organs. And this is what's done in Chinese medicine, which is one of the world's oldest forms of medicine. Okay? Now, when we talk about martial arts, most martial arts either do one of two things. If someone tries to hit you, they try to stop it. They try to put some kind of a wall. Or else they bob and they weave. In some way, they get their body out of the way. Tai Chi touches, and then it just doesn't stop the force. It makes no attempt to stop force. If it touches it, it just moves it. It goes with the force line, and then just lets it move on. And once the force exhausts itself, then it can come back and it can hit or do whatever it wants to do. So as a martial arts, reasonably effective. I'm originally from New York City, which was a very rough town at one time, and I can state from, shall we say, clinical experience, it works very well, quote unquote, on the street. Okay, not just against one person, but against multiple people. Of course, you have to train it properly. If you don't know how to train it, I don't care what martial arts you do, none of it's going to work. Okay, so this is just an introduction into Tai Chi, and where a few other things that are important. is that one of the major objectives of Tai Chi is to have your mind be completely still. It's just still, and yet it will pick up whatever is coming at it or whatever is happening externally. But it's not going to be you're going to get what's happening externally by having your mind project into it. So it's not about hand-eye coordination. Although, I mean, to do movements like this and to do them smoothly and well, you're eventually going to develop some coordination because otherwise your body can't do it. But now we're looking at that the power of the mind is emphasized in Tai Chi more than the power of the body. Now in China, the phrase they use is that whenever you do something, you clench your muscles, you tighten your muscles. China has hundreds of martial arts that do that. Okay? Not 1 or 2 or 5 or 10, try hundreds. And Tai Chi is one of the only ones that says that's called Li, when you clench your muscles. And Tai Chi says you never use Li. Your muscles are relaxed the whole time. Now I will admit that for most people, and I've taught many, that their main interest, as my teacher in Tokyo put it once, he says, everybody wants to be healthy, but only a few people want to learn to fight. Okay? Let's translate this to everybody. Everybody wants to learn to drive a car. Not everybody wants to be able to compete in the Indy 500. Okay, because there's a difference between just driving a car to go to the grocery store and driving a car that's moving at over 200 miles an hour on a track, where people die on the track all the time. You have to have a way higher degree of skill to do that. So, the martial arts side of Tai Chi you can just think of as a higher level of skill. You also could think of its ability to really heal people as a higher level of skill. But as was put when I was a kid, there's many more Woolworths than there are Tiffany's. There's a lot more people go to elementary school than get PhDs. And yet we don't, but if we think if it's all the same, just, you know, finishing the 3rd grade or finishing university, that's nonsense. It's pure nonsense. But we just tend to kind of take it all the same in the name of democracy. Postmodernism. All things are equal. Maybe. Okay? We could have fun with that in the NBA if we started having a whole group of people who are only 3 feet tall playing against 7-footers. You'd see how far that would go. General principle is a philosophical principle, yes, but as a practical principle, not really. So anyway, here we're going to go now. We're going to go into something. So let's just at least begin by showing you what some of these movements of the Wu style look like. Okay? I'm not doing this for the Yang style. I could because I teach the Wu style. I have taught the Yang style. I have been asked for 30 years to teach the Yang style, and I don't. Why don't I? My personal opinion is that the great problem of at least American society, and I would have to say European society also, is that it is not physical health. We have very advanced medical systems that can, give or take, make people healthy. Yeah, maybe Tai Chi can add an extra 10 or 20% on top of that, but the basic job is done. But the disease that's killing everybody in the West is mental. It's called stress. And it's the way it comes out to where people's minds are really get warped by all the pressures of modern society. So Tai Chi is very useful for that. But the second reason is that I hope that I get some of my students far enough in the basics to start teaching them the Taoist methods of meditation that can be done with Tai Chi. Because if you talk about meditation, you just kind of take it at a much simpler level than something that's so far out there called enlightenment and is beyond anything you could possibly imagine. And that will make the statement that's actually an accurate statement. Been there, done that, as the phrase goes. But if we just talk about having your mind be free of your mind, if we're talking about what you live with inside you being free of the nonsense that your mind generates, then that is a subject where meditation really does start coming into its own, and is, I think, going to be of a greater value in the Western world. Matter of fact, it's going to be a greater value in China if they can ever start getting back to their roots. Okay, So let's get some people up here and let's just do the first 5 moves of the Wu style. Yeah, Paul, come up here. We'll just 3 of us will do it because the stage is only so big. Now, for what it's worth for the people watching, I'm 73 years old, okay? So I'm not a kid, and one thing Tai Chi is known for is enabling people as they get older to have the same level of responsiveness and strength they had when they were young, if they choose to. Anybody could choose just to sit and watch TV all day long. But if they can get up and start behaving like a 20-year-old, then that's their choice. That's not something their body has imposed upon them. So let's just do Tai Chi.
And for those of you here in the room who didn't know the form, feel free to get up, find a little space, and follow along.
So that's the first move, okay? Let's just take some odd moves from the middle of the form, okay? I'm not doing the form in order. I'm just trying to give you a sense of it. Now, when I teach, most people don't want to put in the work to use Tai Chi as a martial art. But every move in Tai Chi is applicable to self-defense. And I always teach at least the surface of what those moves are. Because after you start having 30, 40, 50 movements, you'd be surprised how easily people forget what comes next. And have some way to focus their mind. So, yeah, come here, Paul. This thing, for example, I teach people, he just goes and go up here, I'm going to hit him, but even if it doesn't hit here, see, I've taken him off. Because the basic principle of Tai Chi is to be able to move your energy through somebody's body. Now, if I'm like this, I use my muscle, he's going to resist. If I just take the energy down through his body, I can just take him right down to the floor without a big problem. But you can't do that if you stiff your muscles, it won't work. But, boom. Okay, now, let's say he's over here. And he goes to hit me. Now he's over here, right? Or whatever you want to do, okay? Or I could move over and throw him away from me if I want. So every move, this move here that I did, well, that's a punch. Everyone knows what a punch is. So this move, if he's hitting from my head, I'm taking him over here. Then I can just step forward. I can hit him. Okay, and if I want to, I can hit his spine too. I'm not going to, let me just do it. I'll just do it a little bit quicker so you just get some sort of an idea. So you can move quicker, but it is the freeing of your nervous system is moving Qi. The Chinese have a very simple idea. that if you make Qi move through your body, you can have it make your body move. If you can have Qi move through your body, you can have your hands move. So these are some of the simple principles. But then, to learn how to do this, first, you learn what's the movement. Then you start learning, well, what is your mind doing? Oh, I'm turning. Oh, I'm making a move over here. Now my body's turning over. I'm hitting with this. Something comes in this direction. I'm blocking it. Then my palm is striking. In the Yang style, for example, that movement, it goes like this. It's a big movement. Everything in the Wu style is done small. It's done for being close to somebody, not a long distance away from somebody. So, okay, so I don't know. Do we have anything else on that sheet, Heather?
Well,
Sure. I'll push with hands with somebody. Anybody want to push hands with me? Okay. So there's a technique in Tai Chi that how they develop this sensitivity. And it's called pushing hands. And you can start doing just by doing this whole business, which is presuming you've already gone about 20 steps earlier. But this is some of the stuff that Tai Chi as a martial art is based upon. If he tries to push on me, I do what's called pung, which if you'll notice what's happening to his body, it's being lifted up in the air. Okay, this is pung. He does something. You're moving him over. If I do pung, I then can push with my backhand rather easily. But then again, see the other direction. I can do pung just, that's all I need. He can't get to me now. He can't get to me. He's being risen, but I don't have to take him way up here. I can just do it very lightly. And if you'll watch his feet, they're coming off the ground. But then after pung, I can do liu, or I can take him down here. And of course, this is always very good. You put your hand here, boom, whatever you want to do. Okay? But this is pung, this is liu. And this is the motion that Tai Chi is most known for. It is the motion that when any pressure is put on you, you don't fight him. It's like he's pushing on air. And then when you just change the direction, a little bit quicker, you can come back at him. Come.
and Bruce, this practice of push hands, is it transition? Is it not into?
Yeah, look, we have to start in an assumption. Something is going here. How would you hit me? How would you try and wrestle with me? How would you try and do anything?
Jaw didn't work.
Yeah, but look all that's touching him with my fingers. Okay, I wasn't going with some big motion. And that's just, he's not doing this of his own free will. It's being done to him. And what I'm actually doing is just pulling his energy up from the floor. Okay? But then I can pull it up from the floor, or I can make it go down. Okay? I can make it go down. Which means that if he hits me, he's down, and he's really not in the best position right now. He's not. I mean, he can be clouded quite easily. Okay? Then you have G, to where you can come back on him, but as martial arts, it's just, that's how you're going to hit him. You're just going forward. Or G is anything that comes forward. It just comes forward. So I go like this. What's going to be his first reaction? Is to go back. I'll just go quicker, and I'll hit him. Because always what you're trying to do is to get, you're avoiding his force, but you want his force to come on you, so when you hit it, an effect happens. And this is the only way I've described this that to me makes sense in all circumstances, that if you punch someone like this, it's one thing. You stick someone's head against the wall and you hit him, it's something else. Okay, it's really a lot more dangerous. Okay, is that enough for the push hands? Look, there is a form and you go like this and you do it and at some point on you go boom and you throw them and that's okay. And you do that when you're teaching. But I'm just trying to have you understand what's behind some of this pushing hands. Because that's what you're supposed to be doing when you do push hands. Okay, what's next, Heather? I covered all of it? Okay, so let's have a couple of you come up here and do the form.
Well, we actually do have something planned out here, Bruce.
What is it?
Well, we have a whole program that we'll transition into to demonstrate things. So at this point, in fact, actually, as the last thing of your section here, Bruce, Craig did go through cloud hands with everybody this morning.
Sure.
Both here in the room and online, so maybe you could lead everybody just through a couple minutes of cloud hands?
Well, I can lead you, but then my interest is showing you more what the point of the damn movement is. Look. You see this? So I have a question for you. Why isn't this a Tai Chi movement? They're both movements. So why in hell's name is it this as opposed to... Those are movements, right? And you can make them... I saw something on YouTube the other day with a woman who's apparently very, very, very popular. And she's doing Qigong, and my only statement would be, being a Qigong master who has had to judge people at international conferences. Oh, really? Or I believe the other American phrase is, give me a break. And she's like this. Now, the purpose of Qigong is to move Qi in the body. It is not to do the ministry of funny movements. Some of you may be old enough, you may have seen Monty Python in the old days, the Ministry of Silly Walks. Well, you could make that. That's Tai Chi. And she could have done that. She's a very beautiful woman. She's very talented. She's got a great marketing thing. All the power to her. I think if you can get people to do anything that's good for their health in America at this point, I don't care what it is. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. Yeah, of course, some things will be of a higher level or a lower level than others. This is true of everything in life. Okay? We don't give Nobel laureates to people who just, kind of had a 2-week course in the subject. You have, there's always different levels of capacity. But let's go, okay, here, we're going to, let's have a couple of you do some forms. I'll just give you a couple of big, giant principles that are in Tai Chi. And I've seen things on YouTube where the people aren't doing it. Just like I've seen some things about a person from somewhere in England showing Tai Chi for self-defense, and I said, wow, really, if people thought this is what it is, it gives Tai Chi a bad name. My specific point of view is to give Tai Chi a good name, not a bad name. Okay, so Craig, just start anywhere. Well, the first thing is that when Tai Chi is done correctly, the shoulders are always down. Okay, keep going. The wrists are always relaxed and extended out from the spine, which you could pick your hands up like that, and that's not happening. Go ahead. Your energy is sinking from the top of your head through your chest down into your belly. Keep going. Your elbows are always staying bent, and as you turn, you're turning from the center of your body. Not from the shoulders, not from the hips, but from actually draw a line right down, let it go right through the middle of your belly, and that's where you're turning from. Okay? That when you go around, all the movements are circular, even, not just in a big thing, but look, in a small. That's a circular movement. All the movements are circular. There are no straight lines in Tai Chi. This is not me speaking, this is the Tai Chi classics. This is the document upon, at least where the theoretical basis of Tai Chi is, that was found in the 1600s in central China. Your joints never lock. They're always bent, but yet within that bentness, they go to the maximum flexibility stage they can. Go ahead. Your weight stays on one leg when you turn, and as you start having your legs spreading out, go ahead. Your elbows are stretching out here with the idea that both your hands are causing the vertebrae of your spine to separate out and come back in together. That's where they separate out. Okay, that's good, Craig, thanks.
Thank you.
So, I mean, that's just a few things off the top of the head. But there's all sorts of stuff. Then later on, there's all sorts of things about not just external alignments, but how are you actually aligning the inside of your internal organs? What are you doing with them? I'll try and make this. This is a thing which is very obvious in the Chen style. Look at my, I don't know how much will come through the shirt, but look. Can you all see the inside of my guts moving? That's a question. I don't know if you can or not. Okay, maybe this will make it a little bit easier. You see this coming over to here? See this one going over to here? See them coming in? See them rising up? See them falling? See the guts coming in toward the spine? Going away from the spine? These are things you do in the Chen style. Chen style is very hard to see if I have a shirt on. If it were summer, it'd be easy to see. I just take the shirt off. So you have that, and there's how each and every one of these movements, your hand going like that. What is it moving inside your body? What is your hand? What is your hand? What is it moving inside your body? Because here I'm actually moving the pressure of my organs. How am I moving the separation of my spine going? And how am I doing it to where I'm causing it to bow and then to come in? Then there are issues of how when you move that you affect your brain, which is not a beginning Tai Chi technique, but it is in there. Okay, it's kind of the middle level of the game. And that's how when you're doing things, how do you actually cause energy to circulate inside your brain? And that's done very, very deliberately. And once upon a time, just for fun in a place, I had an MRI testing it. Yeah, and I said, yeah, you're doing it. But you can also get to a point where you can move one finger. And you can cause any part of your body to start articulating, moving. It's natural range of motion. So these are things that are all part of Tai Chi. And that's even above and beyond, can you make your Chi drop? Can you make it rise? Okay? Like here. To give you an idea, come here, Paul. Now, Tai Chi has physical mechanics. Biomechanics is a major subject of study in sports medicine, okay, and physical rehab for that matter. And it's really only come about the past, 40 years to a big extent. So let me just show you something. This is here. Come back. Okay, go ahead. Put your hands. Get yourself in the stance. Come on. I'm like this. Whoomp. This is biomechanics. See my back leg go back and how that's moving in that way? This is simply biomechanics. And there's lots of things like that. There's lots of how you just get, and if you can get your hips to go, you can move them. And that's all about transferring physical energy through the body. But then you have something else. I'm like this, okay? Notice nothing moved. My legs didn't move. My hips didn't move. Now all I'm doing is I'm just simply taking my Chi and moving it up through my body. And that's when you start talking about energy mechanics. That's when you talk about if someone pushes on you, you don't try and you physically wiggle out of it. You just take his energy in the back of your spine. And that's not the same thing as he's pushing on you and I'm trying to wiggle, because that's physical mechanics. And so you have a difference between those two things. Anyway, there's a whole lot of stuff you could say about Tai Chi. It almost never stops. But I just thought I'd try and put some ideas into people who are watching this, that there's more in Tai Chi than you might imagine. Or as I said, I'm older than probably many of you. There was a great phrase when I was a kid: this is not your father's Oldsmobile. Which those of you who are older younger wouldn't get it, but Oldsmobile at one time, next to a Cadillac, was considered to be the car. And that's what Dad drove, and that was made him like a really, that was really cool. But no. Then they came out with new cars. This is not your father's Oldsmobile, because everything your father's Oldsmobile could do, the new cars could do twice, 3 times, 5 times better. And yet, it'd be hard to figure out exactly how they did it unless you do, quote unquote, you look under the hood. So what I've tried to do is just give you a little bit of something in terms of Tai Chi, is that what's under the hood of Tai Chi. I met someone the other day, right? This guy's big fella. I'd say 6'2", 6'4", hard to say. Strong mother, okay? And he's now in his 40s. He says, no, I'm looking for something where I could continue the martial arts I'm doing until I'm 50, 60, 70. And so I told him a bit about Tai Chi and whatnot and whatnot. I don't know what he'll do with it, but at least he was interested. And that is something that Tai Chi is known for. How do you not lose capacity with age? And that could come under the generalized title of longevity. Okay? So, anything else?
No, that's great, Bruce, and that did exactly that. Gave us an idea, a taste of the vastness and the depths of Tai Chi. So thank you for that. We're going to make a segue here, Bruce. So we're going to go ahead and thank you and get you up.
Oh,
I
still didn't do the cloud hands, did I?
That's okay.
It's okay, fine.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Here, let me kind of like make another point. Paul, Craig, any 2 people, I don't give a damn who you are. Bigger is the better. If we had someone who was 7 feet, I'd bring him up here. But come up here now so we're not just wasting time. Now, come here. One of the major things about cloud hands is that when pressure is put on you, you just move the person to the side, right? But cloud hands has different things depending upon what the style is. You could put your hands on me, and some of it is the way, go ahead, put your hands on me. I mean, I really wasn't asking you for the fun of it. I got 2 hands. See, I got one on the top, one on the bottom. Bodies are funny that way, But I'm just doing, you're pushing on me, and now not much is happening, is it?
No.
And it's how in each of these positions, do it again, how do you have juice in your hands? So they can't really move you. So that then when I go quickly and you put it on me, you can't use your force against me and things will happen faster, and wherever your force is and it moves, it's like an earthquake. The earth stays still. When it moves a little bit, everything shakes, rattles, and rolls. Okay, so that's cloud hands, and this is the universal motion of Tai Chi. And I could go into how it moves your organs, how it does this, what it does with your spine, what this nerve flow is, what that nerve flow is. And I think that in terms of most Westerners, it's more useful for them to think of nerve flow than it is to think of Qi flow. Qi activates your nerves, but most people, Qi is this mysterious subject. It's not really mysterious. You can actually work out what Qi is by understanding its functions. Okay? Yoga has pranayama, these breathing techniques, quote unquote. Well, the end of the breathing techniques is where just with your mind you move this energy through your body. Tai Chi has the exact same thing, only it's doing it with movement. Okay, it's the same principle as you have in yoga, and actually it produces the same results. I did yoga when I was younger. I started doing it when I was about 14. I did it in India. I could do 300 of the classic postures of Hatha Yoga. I spent a 3-month period where I did pranayama 12 hours a day. So kind of, I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. Been there, done that, as the phrase goes. But you're starting to look at, these are just different ways of making the body whole. And the ability to control what happens inside your body and the ability to control your energy is all part of making your body whole. If you didn't have your left arm, you wouldn't say your body was whole. From another point of view, if you can't move energy through your body at will, your body's not whole. You lost something. Where'd it go? Well, it's still inside of you, but you have to do something to awaken it. Otherwise, it'll sleep for your entire life. Okay, so have them come up now and...
Yep, that's great. Thank you, Bruce. And so many fascinating things to hear and see, and all I can say is if you'd like to hear more of that from Bruce and learn how to do these things, find a way to study with us. So we're going to go ahead and thank Bruce and clear the stage. And we're going to move into our next section here where we are just going to have some people come up on stage and do some very quick, short excerpts of all the variety of things that Bruce teaches and that we teach here through Energy Arts at the Tao Space. I'll make a point of saying right off the bat, and I'll remind you as we go along, that these are just short excerpts, shorter and quicker than they would be for a practice, but just to give you an idea of the variety of things that we offer here. So we're going to go ahead and start out with a Tai Chi demonstration. This is the Yang form. Okay. Then do what you like. If you'd like to do, you're saying do the Wu style, or? Why don't we actually stick to what we have here, because I want to mention, Craig, that we're going to begin teaching the Yang style here in the summer. So we're going to start with we are going to start here with the demonstration, a short excerpt from Yang style Tai Chi Chuan. What's interesting here, though, is that Craig and Paul are each doing a different version of the Yang style. They come through different lineages. Craig, who's on the left, is doing a version of the form that comes directly from Yang Luchang, which is the originator of the Yang style that Bruce was speaking about earlier. You'll notice that even though Craig and Paul started the same, they begin to diverge a little bit. The forms have a similarity to them, but yet they look a little bit different, showing how these forms and styles develop and change over the time, maintaining some of the underlying principles, but evolving. Paul on the right there is doing a version that derives from the Yang Chung Fu lineage. Yang Chung Fu was a grandson of the originator, Yang Luchang. Both of these practitioners, though, are also adding internal components into this, what we call Neigong, the internal energy workings that Bruce teaches here at Energy Arts. And they are adding these into the shell of the Tai Chi form. I also wanted to mention that Craig will be teaching the Yang style beginning in early summer. So if you're interested in learning particularly that form that he's doing right now, that's a great time to start it in June during our summer program. Again, they're just doing a small excerpt here, and they're both ending at a place in the form called single whip. And they're closing out. Thank you very much. We're going to move on now to some Qigong. So we're going to start with Dragon and Tiger.
We're not doing the Chen Penling? Okay. 4 moves of each. Okay.
As they get set, I'll just again remind you, as I've said, that these are shorter and quicker excerpts. But if anybody here in the room or at home knows these forms and would like to get up and play along with them, feel free to do so.
From the right.
This particular form, called Dragon and Tiger, is an example of medical Qigong.
To the left.
Bruce learned this form in Beijing from a prominent Chinese medical doctor named Zhang Jiahua, who specialized in using Qigong within the Chinese medical system, something that Bruce was talking about earlier. Many of you here in the room or at home may know this particular Qigong set. For those of you who don't, much as in Chinese medicine, this particular form works along the acupuncture meridian lines of the body, some of the major ones. It begins by moving that energy. You can see them tracing it through the legs, around the waist. Begins by moving that through what is called the Wei Qi, which is just under the surface of the skin. Moving that energy, smoothing it out, clearing blockages. And then later on,
To the left.
this form also teaches how to move and smooth that energy through the etheric body, which is the etheric or energy field that emanates from the physical body. This particular move here is doing many things, but one of the things they're doing here is clearing energy through the kidneys and particularly the legs. This movement here, Dragon and Tiger pierce heaven and earth. You can see them beginning to work with the energy above the head and below the feet. You can actually see them piercing and extending upward and drawing it and downward. One of the specialties of this entire Qigong set is releasing stagnant Qi within the body. Stagnant Qi, of course, thought to be within Chinese medicine the primary cause of illness and disease in the body. So important to clear that and release that out of the body. This particular set, coming from the world of medical Qigong, they're doing it standing here, which is the normal way to do this set, but it could also, for example, be done sitting down in a chair, or even lying in bed if someone was bedridden, to bring up the energy levels, smooth out the energy in the body, and boost the body's natural healing capacities.
Cool.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to move on now to Heaven and Earth. Again, if anybody knows these sets, feel free to practice along with us.
Yeah, get him drink.
This particular Qigong set is called the Marriage of Heaven and Earth, or Heaven and Earth for short. This is one of 5 Taoist Qigong sets that we teach in the energy arts system that is based upon the 5 elements. This particular one is based upon the wood element. Whereas the previous Qigong set that we saw, Dragon and Tiger, has 7 different movements that you cycle through with any number of given repetitions each. You noted that this one has far fewer movements to it, but is deceptively simple. There's a lot of internal work going on in here, and this is one of the primary sets that is used to teach many of these 16 Neigong components. This particular one specializes in teaching bending and stretching, opening and closing, twisting, wrapping. It also works with both the macrocosmic and microcosmic orbits that many who have done any Qigong may have heard about. Many of those internal Neigong components that I mentioned, along with others, are considered part of the foundations of Qigong and Neigong. And I would just like to remind everyone, if you don't know, or let you know, that we do have courses here specifically in foundational Qigong. And this summer, during our summer retreats, we are going to be teaching the first ever instructors training in foundational Qigong that looks into many of those basic components that work within Qigong. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to our next set. Moving on to energy gates. The next set, for short, we often call it energy gates. The full name is opening the energy gates of the body.
Okay.
So the energy gates Qigong set is composed of several different parts. The first one, which we're not showing today particularly, is standing, which begins to teach many, again, foundational components of Qigong and Neigong, including alignments, breathing. They have now moved on to cloud hands. If you were with us earlier this morning, Craig taught everyone cloud hands that comes from the Tai Chi system, from Wu style Tai Chi.
First swing.
This is also called cloud hands. You could see that it was similar yet different to what you all did this morning. Now they're moving into what we call the swings.
Second.
These 3 swings, they've just moved on to the second one, work with the different organ systems in the body. First one works with the lower organs in the body, the kidneys. Second one works, that they're doing now, works with the middle organs in the body, liver, stomach, spleen. And now they've moved on to the third swing, which moves higher up, works into the upper organs, the heart, the lungs, and eventually the brain. Those swings also focus on the three different dantians of the body. If you're familiar at all with energy work or Chinese medicine, you know about the lower, middle, and upper dantians. Here they are doing a Taoist version of a spine stretch. This may look familiar to anybody who's done a roll down and roll up of the spine, but there's a lot going on internally that makes it different than the way it's normally done in dance or other forms of exercise. Particularly as they are rolling back up, they are working on opening the front, the anterior side of the spine. So by the time they're done with this, they've opened up both the back and the front sides of the spine. Thank you, everybody. We'll move on to God's Playing in the Clouds. I should have mentioned that the set we just saw, Energy Gates, is associated with the water element. Moving on to God's Playing in the Clouds, I'll start by saying that God's Playing in the Clouds is associated with the earth element. Aside from the typical qualities that you may associate with earth, such as grounding, centering, another major aspect of earth is integration. There is a phrase that says, all is in the earth. And for our purposes, that means that the earth brings together and centers all the other four elements of Chinese Qigong philosophy, those, of course, being water, fire, wood, and metal. Earth is often depicted at the center. This particular set is used within the energy arts system as a culmination, as a bringing together of everything that has been learned in the other sets, using that element of earth as, again, a center point of integration. I'll take that opportunity to mention that we have an earth element workshop coming up in June, the weekend of June 11th through 12th, in which we'll be using a couple of moves from this particular set, God's Playing in the Clouds. We won't be doing the whole set. We'll be doing a couple of moves from the set. And the workshop itself will focus on the earth element itself and how it can be explored, used, and applied and appreciated through sitting, standing, and moving. And we'll be using a couple of these moves here for the moving component of that. This particular set is one of the oldest Taoist Qigong sets. I'll also mention that breathing is, of course, an important component to all of these. They all offer an opportunity to practice different methods of Taoist breathing, which is a bit different than many of the other popular forms of breathing. That's a form of breathing that you can take into every aspect of your daily life. That's a component to all of these sets, but it can also be studied and practiced on its own. And I will take that opportunity to mention that during our summer retreat this coming summer, Craig will be teaching a foundational Taoist breathing course, and that will be followed up by Bruce teaching a very exciting course called Breath to Qi, which focuses on finding the thread and the connection between moving breath in the body and directly moving chi in the body. It's a course that he taught a number of years ago, and anybody who was at that course can tell you it was really quite astounding, the depths and the extent to which you can take that, and we have another opportunity to explore that coming up this summer. That particular set, they have just illustrated the 6 primary movements of that set. Thank you, everybody. Last thing we're going to show you today is just a short sample of Bagua Zhang. Bagua Zhang is many things, including a martial art, as the name indicates. Bagua Zhang literally translates as 8-diagram palm, a martial art based upon 8 trigrams of the I Ching. But ultimately, it is thought to have derived from Taoist practices of circle walking meditation. At the moment, you can see the practitioners going through a variety of different energetic arm postures as they walk the circle. Bagua as an art is particularly directly connected to the roots of Taoism, particularly the I Ching. The I Ching, which of course is known as the Book of Changes, and Bagua Zhang is thought also to be an art and practice of manifesting change, as you see them doing here now. It can also be done as a healing practice. It can also be done purely as an aerobic exercise. Once these circles get going faster and faster, it can be quite a physical workout, as well as an energetic workout. Later on, at its highest levels, Bagua is also done as meditation and even as a basis of spiritual development. So as I said, that was a sample of a variety of different energy postures while walking the circle. These practitioners are now moving into the single palm change. First of many changes that can be learned and take you through the different energetic transitions. Of course, all of these, as I said, also have martial applications, but ultimately, and at the deepest aspect within them, working with the energy, really the energy of the universe and this earth as manifested in the human mind and body. So that was the single palm change. Thank you. And just to take us a little bit further into Bagua, Bagua has many palm changes, 8 classic palm changes. Paul Cavell here is going to take us through a a few more of them and give us just a sampling of how they can get quite a bit more complicated. He's moving into palm change number 3 here. He's going to take us through 3, 4, 5, and 6, which respectively represent the trigrams of wind, thunder, fire, and water. You can see how these changes start to become more complicated, moving back and forth, changing direction many times, quicker. And as we're kind of finishing up here, I'll thank everybody for joining us. I'll thank everybody for the comments in the chat. People thanking Bruce for bringing these teachings to us, and I would like to do the same. I know we all appreciate Bruce for making these practices accessible to so many people. Okay, yes, we're getting wows and amazings in the chat. So this is a great example of where you can go with the art of Bagua if you stick with it. So again, as Paul wraps up here, this is bringing us to the end of our program for World Tai Chi Day, Tai Chi and Qigong Day. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed both playing along, as Craig taught us some cloud hands, getting the information from Bruce and watching the demonstrations that he did for us, and all these practitioners very generously taking us through the different aspects of our system. So I'm going to go back and turn it over to Craig, and I will thank you very much again for joining us. And Craig?
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, everybody, for watching some of the Qigong sets that we practice here at the Forum, and some Bagua, some different Tai Chi styles. This time period, we usually offer a long-form Tai Chi class that's normally going on here. So we're just going to finish this set by everyone who's here who knows the form or who just wants to follow along can practice Tai Chi with us, and we'll continue to broadcast if you want to watch. But the last bit is just a little bit of practice of part of the Wu style long form Tai Chi. So thank you, everybody, for joining us, and hope to see you here at the school someday. And have a wonderful World Tai Chi and Qigong Day. So if we remove the chairs, and anybody in the room who wants to follow along, and we'll practice. And we'll have someone who knows the form pretty well at each corner of the room. So if you're just following along for the first time, you can just follow someone in the corner or follow me, and I'll be sitting in the front here. Okay, everybody, just fill out the center of the room wherever. And again, if we can have someone at each corner who knows the form, and if you know the form, you know what to do. If you're just following along as we turn, whatever, you'll always have someone to follow. Just follow someone who's in the corner. Okay, I'm going to face the front so it's easier to follow. And let's start out just by standing for a moment. Stand, relax, sit down a little bit in the kwa, open up your armpits, breathe, let everything go easy. And we'll just go from the beginning of the form up to where we are. And go. thank you, everybody. And I know we didn't do the arms yet, but we'll learn that next in the repulsed monkey. So I think there's some food out there, and so everyone make yourself at home and welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you're part of the regular Tai Chi class, thank you for sticking around, and I'm glad we got a round of practice in at the end. We had a lot of new visitors with us in the room playing along. Great to feel all that practice energy, so thank you. Anybody who's here in the room, remember that we could segue to the lobby for some refreshments and some tea. For those of you who are joining us online, we are going to go ahead and bid you a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. And once again, thank you for joining us to celebrate these wonderful arts on World Tai Chi and Qigong Day. We hope to see you soon. Bye for now.